So welcome and good morning, everyone. Like I mentioned, to our fifth, but certainly not final chapter of this blended learning journey. It's amazing how quickly the time goes by, and we've been at this since November. And with your feedback, we did add today's workshop and also added lots of work time. That's something that kept coming up, and all the feedback you've given us was more time, more time, more time, and we did our best to supply more time. So today is May 11th. 2023, and it is the presentation of your respective projects. As you know, the barcode to the EPC blended learning website is here, and this is where we also plan on uploading some of your, or if not all of your presentations at some point in the future. So here's a recap of the two-year project. We started from very much a theory-based premise to a more involved premise where you got to choose the templates this year. You got to look at some of the aspects of blended learning, including how you're going to apply it in your classroom or how you try to apply it in your classroom. And this second year project, I think, is going to be very foundational for us, not just teachers, but PED consultants when we go out and try to do this project again next year, perhaps with a different flavor. I'm hoping, and our whole committee is hoping, the EPC group, that you will join us again next year. There's something to be said about teachers who've had this experience and then can share their expertise, knowledge, and experience with this project with newcomers. It's going to end up saving a lot of time for the newcomers. We tend to build upon each other's foundational work, and this is pretty much the nature of our industry. We don't want to operate in silos. We want to get the right information, techniques, strategies out there for teachers to share and have a look at. So as you know, today's show and tell will be recorded, and we'll be looking at your faces and kind of the temperament and energy of the session to decide when we're going to have a break. Likely it'll be at around 10:30, quarter to 11. And we'll do a nice, neat wrap up. And finally, please, we'll take the time to fill out the feedback form. Everything okay so far? See a few nods. Okay, the hair is in place indeed. Okay. So in the show and tell, basically tell us what you've done. The sharing will take place, take about approximately 5 minutes, followed by some discussion questions for each project. These discussion questions are going to obviously kind of point out where we had successes, where we had some struggles, even better if possibly. So keep those guiding questions in mind that were sent via the email. If I could ask one of my colleagues to be a note taker, I always have to beg for this. I'm a horrible note taker because it'll be a great opportunity to kind of wrap up some of those bits and peaches that we're going to be talking about today. So here are your guiding questions for your presentation, or part of it anyway. What was your peach? And hopefully there were peaches involved. And what was your pit? And hopefully we'll remain at one pit. And when you're thinking about this, think about everything that you've gone through in this process, including the organizing your classroom, obtaining the right technology, getting students motivated, getting yourself motivated. Some of the successes that you've had with blended learning. Did you notice an improvement in your students' motivation? Some of the assessments that you've had. Anything that you can enlighten us with. And of course, what, if anything, would you have done differently? This also applies to us. We have to, as a committee, we're going to consider through your feedback form, what, if anything, we could have done differently. Again, the challenges you may have had to address, and if you were able to overcome those challenges. And it's just as important to state if you weren't able to overcome that challenge. It can be something as simple as, and perhaps as complicated as, not having enough outlets in your classroom to charge the computers. This is something that's quite pragmatic, and anything that kind of comes to mind like that. And of course, we want to capture the key highlights of piloting your project, any of those aha moments. And those aha moments, like I said, could be something that you experienced throughout this, or something that you saw your students experience, or even a reflective process that made you think that, okay, I can work with this in the coming sessions, and I'm going to try to experiment with this with the new group of students. Again, I'm going to do a little check-in. Everyone all right with the course of the day? Very nice. So this is at the point where your project ideas, we were looking through the slide deck. If you haven't had the chance yet to put in a link to your project, you will have the chance to do so by the end of today or by the end of the week, and then we'll go ahead and look at it. The committee will look at it. So please do put in the link to your project, or whether it's a PowerPoint or a video or whatever it may be, put it in your designated area in the slide deck. I'm not sure if you had a chance to look at that yet, but yes, I see a couple of nods. Right. So I guess this is the point where I don't know if we draw straws or pick names out of a hat, or I'm not sure how to proceed. So let's see if someone in the chat would like to. Oh, there we go. Karen, look at your hand shot up so quickly that. Yeah. Is that a yes that you want to go ahead and present? Great. Fantastic. Yes. Thank you, Karen. So just give us at the same time some background. You want to get it over with. Okay.
Is it possible to go to my slide on there? Because I have a video that I already made.
Well, I'm going to stop sharing, and I think Darlene's going to now make you presenter. So I'll stop right here.
Because we had the help of Matthew Kennedy, Priscilla and I, and so he put a really fun little video together. So I'm just going to present it. It's 3 minutes, and it basically sums up everything I did with the peaches and pits.
Fantastic. Thank you, Karen. And as we're watching this video, please, everyone else, take notes of any questions or comments you may have for Karen.
Yeah. Just to save time, I don't have the slideshow up. So if someone can present it, they can just press my link. If someone already has it ready to go.
Oh, I see. Maybe I should go back and then just.
In the slide deck, yeah. Because I have to go get it. But
I understand.
Yeah. I think you can just present it, whoever. Yeah. So if you just scroll down to mine, I think I'm near the end.
You're near the end, but you're starting the show.
Yes. Is that? No.
It's slide number 30.
Thank you.
Thank you. Merci.
So if you go to the last one, so we have 3 slides. It's the third slide. Yeah. Next one. Next one. Yeah.
There we go.
Station rotation. If you just click on that.
Let's see here.
Turn my mic off. Yeah, and you should be able to just press play.
Yeah, let's have a look here. All right. Thank you, Karen, for volunteering to go first. This is also an interesting method of blended learning. We've taken one of the premises of it and created a video. So let's have a look here. Everyone ready? Let's do the sound check. I'm trying to get it to play. There we go.
And I would say the top 3 things that went very well were student engagement. I had one station that was actually a cell phone station where they had to put their cell phones there, and I was lucky they all agreed. There was no pushback on that. And for me, it was just really heartwarming to see students actually engaging with each other, talking to each other in like very meaningful ways. So that was a huge bonus. The second thing that went really well was the flow. I had quite a consistent flow that it went, so they weren't always doing group work or single work. It was a very good mix. The third thing was the timing. I lucked out, I planned it, so it was just that it happened to work out that each section had 20 minutes, and the questions or the activities I created for each one I had that in mind that it would be 20 minutes and it worked. So I had nobody sitting around with nothing to do while we were waiting for the 20 minutes to be finished. On the negative side, or a place to really reflect, was I asked the students to fill out a questionnaire about how they felt once the station rotation was done. And I was kind of disappointed. There were actually a couple of students who said they didn't care for the station rotation. It was interesting to see them discussing while they were doing this. And there were 4 groups. So instead of picking a new one each time, they continued to color on, they chose one that a student had done in the previous group, and then continued on that. So I put them up because I thought they were a very lovely collaborative activity. It was a very collaborative activity that I am very happy with how it went, and I look forward to trying it again in my new class.
That's it.
Bravo.
Oh, and I did follow up and ask my students if they would do it again, and they all said they would, even though some of them didn't like it. So that was interesting too.
So Karen, you mentioned flow, timing, and a couple of students who seemed to have, you were disappointed that a couple of students that did they specify what was it about the station rotation that they found?
No, and I think if I were to do it again, I would need to say, tell me why you didn't like it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe they were uncomfortable speaking, but I had a couple of students who rarely speak and they were totally engaged in the conversation. So I don't know. Can't please everyone, right?
Karen, what was the level?
This was high school option course called mindfulness
Okay. Okay.
and well-being. So we did something just based on mindfulness. So each activity they did was based on different ways to do a mindful activity. Yeah.
That's so
So when you're
awesome, Karen, that
go ahead.
that like students who hadn't spoken up a whole lot in class before.
No, and they were speaking with other
had-
people.
Yeah, that's so
At
awesome.
both of the interactive stations, they all spoke. So I don't know. I think it went well. I was happy with it, even if some
Yay.
of them weren't.
Well, I think it's small steps, right? I think if I
Mhm.
can add to that, it's small steps. And,
Yeah.
you know, it probably depends on the group and it depends on the day and it depends on lots of things, right?
Absolutely.
But at least I think it's great what you did in the cell phone station. I had never thought of that, but that makes,
It was great.
you know, it's like, and it was equitable. And I think that's what, you know, they're looking for, right? Like it has to be equitable for everyone. So, okay, as a group, we're going to do this. And you had them talking. So like, to me, that's a step forward. So I think it's great, really great.
Yeah, like I say, I was quite happy and I couldn't believe 2 people said they didn't care for it. I'm like, but maybe they just, like you say, they were having a bad day. You know, I don't know. They didn't want to talk, but they did. So
Did they say why they didn't like it?
no, and that's what I was saying. If I ask again, if I do that little survey, I will say why or why not. Yeah. Yes, changes too. I had never done it with this class, so maybe they were out of their comfort zone a little bit. That's it.
I guess it would be interesting to know both, you know, the few, because it seems like it worked well for the majority. The ones
Yeah.
who did like it, why did they like it? And the ones
Exactly.
who didn't, why? Yeah,
Now
Good.
I'd add that question.
it's great.
And just to echo Emily's comment there, change in routine. I know a lot of CCB teachers over at our board have students who are a lot of in traditional roles classroom, and Mish, you might be able to attest to this later. When you start trying to mix up that routine, there's a little pushback or resistance at first, but they quickly become acclimatized, especially when they can see that the engagement and the interaction increases and that the teacher is circulating and offering feedback as they go along. Karen, thank you so much for that video. I love the guitar work. I'm not sure if you got Matthew to play for you. I'm not.
No, I played.
Oh, that was you playing? Oh, I'm so gullible. Any other questions or comments for Karen? This certainly the cell phone station is something that's quite original. I'm not sure if I even saw it anywhere in Caitlin Tucker's passages, just to have a cell phone station. That's really, really interesting and imaginative. So any questions or comments for Karen?
I'd have a question. I was just wondering if, so your students that are more autonomous versus those that rely more on you, did that have anything to do with like who liked it and who didn't? Sometimes, you know, the students that are so used to you spoon feeding them a little bit, it's hard for them to.
In this class, I didn't spoon feed them very much. It was very, it was a personal journey. So I think one of them was just, she was unhappy the whole semester. So I suspect that it was more like, that's just who she was. She's the one that was really resistant to the coloring. And then when we did a video on how they actually use coloring in therapy. And then on another day, I gave them 10 minutes if they wanted to color. And she was the first one to get up and color, even though she said she didn't. And then the other one, I just think again, just not a positive attitude. So I don't know if I would have asked any other day, they might have said they didn't like it either, right? So, and I often move the setup in my classroom. So other than it being an actual station rotation, nothing was that new because we used to reconfigure the classroom all the time and do stretching. And so I'm not really sure.
I want to take this class, Karen.
Yeah, I know.
Please.
It was really quite.
It's a fun class if people are engaged. Next.
Yeah, thank you, Karen. You certainly created the launch pad. I guess I'm hungry by calling it a lunch pad for everyone else. Who would like to
Pheleshia.
go next? It's Pheleshia who shot up her hand. Yeah, go ahead. So I think we'll allow you to share your screen, Pheleshia, or do you want me to continue? I'm not sure if you put something in the slide deck.
No, I'm going to share my screen. Hold on a second. Okay, wait, it's not giving me what I want. Oh, here, okay. Got it. Okay, so I worked on my Google Classroom, the class 4103, and I'll just show you and then talk about things. So what I was able to do here, hear ye, is I created a Jamboard for the students to reflect on what news is, because that's pretty much what the whole course is about. And so I put what is news, take a sticky note, you know, told them how to do it, and then where do you get your news from? So that was the first thing I did. Hold on, this bar is in the way. So that's just to get them into the class, engage them, you know, get them to have their own ideas and start thinking about what they will be learning. I want these materials, I wanted to do something with them, so I will. They'll probably look a little bit like what I'm going to show you next. So then we get into breaking news. So here I give a little explanation of what I want them to do. So basically they're going to be choosing one of each type of news. I made it as a tic-tac-toe grid, which I'm going to show you. Oops, I saw a typo. I'm gonna have to fix that. So basically I was able to do this in, I did this in a slide, and then I was able to turn it to present as a presentation for the students, and each student gets one. So basically when you click on each of these, it brings you to either, I don't know if you can hear that. I don't know if I shared sound. Did you hear that? Hold on a sec. Let me go back to my sharing. Okay, so basically
Open daily. Visit us at Gateway Casinos Innisfil, Casino Rama Resort, and play.
to live news. So these here are live streaming news, all of them, CBC, and then you have another one, then print news. Basically, this one was a little bit more complicated. I had to copy. I couldn't find any print news online, to be honest with you. It was really, that was a huge challenge. And then I remembered that I'm a member of newspapers.com for my genealogy. So I went into there, got some articles, and then downloaded them and uploaded them into my tic-tac-toe. And then here, podcast news. So they click and they can listen to podcasts, and they can choose different podcasts. So just that took me like one day to put the tic-tac-toe thing together, and almost 2 days just to find all the resources. And even after all that, I have one that the link is broken. So that's one of my challenges, the pits. Making sure that I find links that stay. It's always an issue. So then once they choose each of their different types of print news or different types of news, the next part is the activity that they're going to do. So again, just putting this together, just the layout itself is the toughest part, but I'm going to show it as a slideshow. Hopefully you guys will see it to show a bit like what I was trying to do. Okay, I have to move the bar. Where are you? Okay, so basically, is it working? Okay, so here what I did was I used this to bring to another slide, then next, and then back, so that they can look at these slides are going to be to teach them about what are the methods of organization, what is the social function, etc. Whoops, that did not work. Oh, hold on. I'm supposed to go to slide 9. Yeah, okay. So like I said, all these links and all that, you have to double check, triple check all the time. So when you go here, communication conventions, you go back, etc. So you can do that for all of them. Then you can just go to the next slide. So here you will have methods of organization, whatever they've chosen, live streaming, print, podcast. Where the XXX is my explanation, and then they type their answer below. So I was able to actually complete one of them. So here for target audience. Basically, based on the content, the way the reporters speak, and the format used, comment on the audience you think is being targeted. And then they have to type their answer below. And then print, it's a little bit different. Podcast is a little bit different. And so that's pretty much it for. Now my issue is, I haven't figured out how the students can type in their responses, because ideally what I would love is for it to be in presentation mode, but that they could type in as well their responses. Otherwise, they have to keep coming back to the slides, and it kind of loses its pizzazz in terms of the, the flow of it all. But I haven't figured that one out yet. I have to keep, I've been reading a lot on Google Classroom, I'll tell you, and slides and all of that. Okay, so then I did all this, I got all this organized. I had a lot of fun finding emojis to make it more interesting, because I learned that you can add emojis to Google Classroom, which was my little thing. And then at the end, I created a Kahoot. Again, the content is not complete, but okay, so there's already people who have done it. That's cool. But how do you get into the Kahoot? Oh, am I finding a pit? Oh, enter my nickname. Okay, so PH. So my journey through the news. Here we go. It's not long. I only put like a few questions, but just to show you what they would do at the end. So what is news? You guys tell me. I can't hear you.
The blue one.
Woo!
got it. Frank, you're on fire. So basically, you know, they're all questions to make sure, like to check for understanding. You know, check the mediums used for sharing the news. What would we put?
Red, blue, yellow.
Yeah. So there you go. It's going to give it all to me because I'm the one putting it in, but you know what I mean. So anyway, we don't have to go through the whole thing, but basically, which you know, we just keep going. I've done 5 questions so far. Really going through the curriculum and figuring out, I don't know how to stop this, but.
You can close the window, Pheleshia. Yeah, there we go.
Okay, but it didn't stop it on my end. Okay, close the window. Okay, there we go. So basically, I started by trying to figure out, like, I wanted to learn everything, Thingling, Genially, all of that. And I realized that some things cost money. And I thought, you know what, how can I make it the most sustainable possible? Google already is its own little ecosystem, and I'm using Google Classroom. So why not try to push the Google tools to their fullest? And that way it'll be more sustainable for my students as well. Plus, with the fact with the links that, you know, like I spent so much time putting all these links into my tic-tac-toes, only to go back 2 days later and the links didn't work anymore. And now I still have one that's like not working because of how news works. It changes all the time. So I have to figure out how to get the main link to the main news thing. And then they have to kind of choose. I can't pick an article because they removed them and put new ones. So that was a learning experience. Yeah, so I decided to stick with slides, and I had actually started with a different template for slides and spent a lot of time on it and realized that it would be way too complicated. So that's it. My cherry is having the time to play with all this. Wow, that was so much fun. And I get really into it. So like it's, you know, I just keep going and going and going. I love playing with this stuff. And my pit was the links. I think it's mostly the links. And also, like, this is the thing I find with all the ITs. Like, I know what I want, but it's not letting me do what I want, you know? And I just want to reach my hand in and say, do it. But yeah, what was the other questions I had to answer? I would love to do this next year, and I'm excited because next year I'm actually changing and I'm going to be doing basic English. So yeah, so in terms of interactive stations, I want to use my smartboard as a station. I'm going to be doing all kinds of crazy things, having them run around, trying to figure out what words match what, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be very interactive. Gail.
Pheleshia, so it gave you time to work on things you probably always wanted to work on, right?
Yeah.
And really, it looks like the goal was to increase the engagement of the students. Would you say that was accomplished with trying the new, what you could have been able to try so far?
My students love Kahoot. My students like the Jamboard. It's individualized, right? So it can be pretty boring, and my students can be pretty boring just sitting there. So I'm constantly trying to engage them. So I was trying to make it, yeah, more engaging and more fun for a student sitting there, and you know, make it a little bit different. My worry with that, though, is I've noticed that when we do, like a bit like what Karen was saying, when you change things up, sometimes they get bogged down with, oh, what am I supposed to do here? And like, I will have students ask me, even though it's right in front of them, they will ask me, what does it have to do again? Yesterday, I had a student say, Miss, can you sit with me and guide me? When like the Google Classroom is very clear. You go 1, 2, 3, but she had no clue where to go next. So that worried me, changing it up too much. But no, I think it's going to be fun.
And maybe that was something else we could have added to this, a reflection on our part. Who are your students in that course?
You mean in the My 4103?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the students that I have are high school. They're very young. They love their phones. Yeah, it's really hard to keep them engaged because they'll be working on the computer, but they put their phones right here so that I don't see them. And they're spending all their time watching videos and typing and texting. And so now I've been asking them, your phone, I want it next to you, face down, and I want to see you working. They'll put their bags in front of their computer so that I don't see them. So I ask bags on the floor or bags out of the way. So like they have all kinds of tricks. And I've gotten so strict. I'm like, everybody's passing an exam in June this year. That's it. That's all. I'm making it almost like semi-structured, you know, where this is the way it's going to be every day. I'm meeting you. Blah, blah, blah. So they're starting to get a little bit more, well, it depends on who. It's really hard to say. We have such diversity in our classes. Like we have students from 16 all the way up to, I think my oldest student is 40. But he's the outlier. Like this year, and I think this is going to be the wave of the future. Most of our students are like 16-year-olds coming straight from high school. So they still have that mentality that school is bad. We go against teachers. Not everybody, but you know, it's like that. I'm going to hide my phone, and I don't really need to do the work. So yeah, I was trying to get more engaging so that they at least want to do the work.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can I ask
Go
my
ahead.
question? Yeah. For your issue with the links, yeah, I've lived that too, where the links die. What you could do, I mean, it depends on how, you know, if you want them to find the news of the day that they do it, if that's really important to you, then of course the links is the way to go. But if you can think about it, like if you find articles on these links that you think are good, that you know could serve the course or the purpose of the course, then you could download the article, like either take a photo of it or anyway download it and then upload it to your Google Classroom.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Yeah, and because you need to have it in another form than a link.
No, but for my for the print news,
Yeah,
that's what I did. That one
but
was
for
the radio, like the live streaming, that's a bit tougher.
yeah, unless you find some, yeah, that's the thing. There's no way to download it, right?
Yeah, and my issue was actually more the podcasts. It's the podcast that keep changing all of these.
Yeah, yeah.
They
So you
keep
have to put
changing.
it to the main page. You'd probably have to bring it to the main page instead of a particular one, and then
Which is,
but it's a great initiative.
it made me sad because like I had chosen the podcast that I wanted. Like I was trying to guide them towards that, but they change all the time, which I didn't realize. Well, it was a learning experience because I didn't realize they changed them. I thought they just left them on their server and we could go and grab them, you know, but no. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, next.
And just a final comment, this is exactly what I know teachers teaching this course are going to just gravitate towards, Pheleshia. You've laid down a lot of work, you've organized it, there's gamification, there's color, there's sound, there's direction, there's instruction. And that's an interesting comment that despite that it's right there, you still have to kind of guide some students and hold their hands. For some reason, that seems to be not the nature, but some people just don't read instructions.
Right.
I'm guilty of that too. Like, where is the, and then people just point out, yeah, just look at the sign, Frank. It's right there. Yeah, there's Paulette raising her hand. I think it's probably a characteristic that some people have, who just don't read and prefer to be told. But this is, again, I think very foundational. And it's going to be a great reference point for teachers teaching that course in ELA.
So how do I make that accessible to you guys? Like, I don't know, or is it okay just with the video? Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Pheleshia. I think we have someone volunteer, Gwen, or did Gwen volunteer? Yes, there you go.
I did volunteer because the internet is terrible. So our internet today kicked Shanna off, so she wasn't able to join us. And so, yay for us. So if I could go, that would be awesome.
Great. And you've already identified a major pit, Gwen. Yes.
The joys. So as I started going through this, I decided, I'm going to share my screen with you. I decided to create a portfolio of where I was going with this. So map my walk with the blended learning journey. And this, as my second year, I really focused on my SVI course. So on our portfolio, you have a link to my Moodle, as well as my notes, and even a little video overview to kind of guide you, or if leads you to questions. It's all available for you at that spot in our wonderful thing. And all the links are on our wonderful little slideshow. So let's start. Through this process, I really dove into the planning of my course, seeing what the curriculum had, and kind of guide me in that way, which allowed me to create course concepts, evaluations, weekly meeting time. I was like, okay, how can I schedule all these concepts in 1 week with students that are going out and going to the workforce, coming back into the classroom? So we really had to plan everything out in a way that was cohesive and allowed the students to learn. Oh, lovely. My internet, as you can see, went down. The joys. Yay. Sorry about that, everyone. Some of the pitfalls was that everything takes time. So all the good stuff I was creating took so much time to create, but I saw the reward afterwards when the students understood. They were like, oh, I like this. There's a video explanation. There's some tasks that I have to write in. That really was a great thing. Some key highlights is that as I was reviewing everything, I kept on telling Shanna, going, Shanna, I did nothing, like nothing. I did nothing. And she's like, go through all your work, check it out. And I was like, oh, wow. Oh, wow, I've done a lot, from evaluations to emails with videos in it. It's not really loading, but as I see here, we have reflections where we really got the students to dive into the course concept, create little videos about the course, present that concept to the classroom, look at things, dive in deep. We created also a wonderful outline for the students to follow. So a really guided, click this URL, it'll bring you to your values quiz. Click this document, it will bring you to your aptitudes. We have going into the stage, I have students that are out on stage now. They've been there for several weeks, so they had to evaluate their stage experience, where we asked them to either videotape themselves, write a little kind of newsletter, blog to us, and fill out an evaluation where they clicked on different things and the drop down tab. So I really explored a lot of those tools on Google. So for sure next year, what I want to do is implement what I learned into my classes a little bit more and get them creating the same kind of documents. That's my goal. It was great, a lot of work and a lot of work to be done, and I'm going to keep on going. But I love the whole putting it together, creating videos, a lot of more work than I said, or thought, but it worked out really well. All right, any questions? I believe, Emily, I see your hand up.
True teacher mode. Yeah. I think, like, props to Shanna for being like, Gwen, no, stop and reflect on how much work you actually did over all of this time, because it really is. I think we do get it. Exactly. You don't see it when you're in it, and having that moment to be like, oh, look at all the things I have actually accomplished this year feels so rewarding. So claps to all of you for like how much you've done over this year, how many things you've tried. Super important that we do that, not just for our students, but take that time for ourselves too.
Awesome.
I don't know if there are more hands up, Gwen, but if there aren't, I'm butting in. Is this was this inspired by the project, or did you have some of these in your sight line ahead of time and the project allowed you to work more on that?
Of course I had the ideas, like I had the vision to implement it. Never did I have the time or the knowledge of where to put it, or like Gwen, just sit down and explore. So I really sat down and explored, and that's what the project allowed me to do, and work on the stuff that I wanted to create.
Looks incredibly well organized and worthwhile for your clientele, particularly.
Well, especially like adult ed and going to the different work stages, and they need to reflect. That's what I noticed, that these students are like, okay, well, why aren't you just giving me the answers? And I'm like, no. You can go work. You know how to do this task. Go. So a lot of pushing.
Thank you.
Priscilla, I saw you raise your hand. Did you have something you wanted to say?
Oh, I was just going to say I'm happy to go next unless Kara wants to go before me.
Yeah,
I think someone volunteered to go next in the chat. I'm not sure who that was.
Yeah, yeah, just because they're doing renovations, they just started that today, of course. The one day I'm working from home. So before it gets too loud, if you don't mind, if I could go, that would be great. Oh. Can everyone see it?
Yep.
Great. So, yeah, so I had a lot of fun with, I mostly tried out station rotations. And this started, when was it? I was looking back, I think in November. So I really didn't know what I was doing, but I was just like, let's try this. I worked with another teacher on this, so I can't take full credit. We were 2 teachers teaching level 3 for, what was it, September to December. And then we worked again together teaching level 1. We had a lot of enrollment this year, which was really great. So they split the group, so we were able to try some things out. So I'll just, so mostly the station rotations that we did were review. So I really didn't, and I'm still working on this. I feel like, especially in a language class, depending on the level, it really was, to introduce something, I think would have been difficult. I still really like the idea of having a teacher-led station, but I'm not there yet. So really we started working on just review. So Fridays, we would introduce these. So either review of the week or before a test. So the first time we did it, we really tried to make it really simple, just because we wanted students, because of the movement, because it's something new. And I had this issue before that sometimes I would, switch up the desks and I would group them differently, and I would leave the classroom for a couple minutes. And once I got back, they were like all put back in rows. And so I knew that this would have to be something that they'd have to get used to, and it'd be a bit out of their comfort zone. So the first one, we had about 35 students, give or take. We had 2 teachers again, so 2 classrooms, 8 stations. 3 were computer stations, and we had a lot of role play and conversation stations. So level 3, they have the language, they have some language, they're able to be a little bit more independent. As you can see on the one that we did, we posted this on Google Classroom, and students had access through the classroom. So when they got to a station where they had to use the computer, the nice thing about the Chromebook is that, it's really accessible once you log in. So once they logged in, they would just open their classroom and then click away, depending on the station they were at. So the other ones that don't have links were just a board game or something written that they would have there. So that was the first one. So I put the good and the not so good. So four students per station was it worked really well. Like I said, the Google Classroom, we had everything numbered very clearly, so that worked really well. The 3 computers worked well because the students were able to do this easily. They have computer literacy skills, so it wasn't an issue. And it was easy for the other teacher and I to rotate and facilitate, which was great. I think we really tired them out though. Like 8 stations was a lot, even though our classes run 4 hours and we had a break in the middle. It was a lot, but I didn't even learn my lesson. So my reflection about this I continued doing it. So I feel kind of bad about that. So maybe I will switch that next year. But, and the timing was difficult. So this is really something that I think that we struggled with a bit with students either could get through it quickly or they just didn't have enough time to finish the activities, which they're very good students that want to finish everything. So we did give them some time the next day to finish what they didn't finish. But that was one thing that I found. So again, we wanted to make it a routine, and I consulted my mom a lot for this. She's an elementary school teacher. So they've been doing stations for a really long time and see the benefits of it, but it really, like, I wanted it to become a routine. So most Fridays we would do this. And I talk about it at the end, but I think what's really nice about teaching English and ESL is that there's a lot of material out there. So when we're talking about finding resources and how long these things take, they are time consuming, but for sure this subject matter is a lot easier because there's so much out there. So I think that if I were doing French, or right now I'm doing Spanish, a lot more difficult, and I'm just starting out with a new this new course, so I'm still looking for a lot of material. So I think right now it would be too difficult to try to do this, or too time consuming. So I did it again with my beginner level ones. So this was in, when was the new session? So somewhere like February or something. And we tried to do it as an exam review. Changed it up a bit, made a creative station that worked really, really well, that they had to make a greeting card. So that was really cool, but it was a mess. Like, to be completely transparent, it was a mess. Like they're very low and there were a lot of them. So again, we had 2 classes doing this. I don't know why we didn't learn from the first couple, but there you go. We did a mix within the group. So we had 2 high, 2 low. And again, it was a review. So most of these things were not new, but a lot of our students just needed a way more repetition. So I think it was too much. It was definitely too much. So again, I just went over this. Timing was difficult. Computer literacy skills were lower, so it took them longer to log in and to do all those things. So there was not enough time to finish. And I think that's it. And that's what we found, that we had them in their stations and no one was really talking, like, what's going on? I think what we had picked was 2 individual and their language skills were much lower. So we found that this probably would have been better as a choice board. So even really switching it up, or I think if I were to do it again with this level, it would be very basic and very repetitious. And I would keep it very low tech, just because I think I mentioned this later, but I would do any kind of listening or tech things more as a group, and then do stations that are, more just simple picture prompts and stuff like that. So just like final takeaways, I think that like every group is unique, and we talked about this. So even looking at right now, even though I'm still teaching a language, I have 30 students and they're different types of students, right? So the ones in my Spanish class now it's an option course, so they're working towards their high school credits. The Living English program, different type of student, different motivation, and the dynamic is different. So I think that I'd have to get to know my students that I have. I just met them, so I'd have to get to know them a little bit better. Also, space is a huge factor. Having the 2 classrooms was really nice because we split half and half. So half have 4 in one room, 4 in the other room. So there's enough room for people to actually move and rotate. At the moment, my class is way too packed. I don't know how that would work. So I would definitely need another space to do that. I couldn't do it in my current classroom. And that is it. Thank you.
Lots of hands up. Go ahead. I'm not sure which one went first. So
Any questions? Oh, Emily?
Oh, I think the hands are actually claps.
Ooh,
Lots of claps for you, Kara.
Thanks. Yeah, and I was gonna say, Mish and I were working the last time we met and on a choice board, and it was really cool because I think coming up with a template will make it a lot easier to implement into different levels and classrooms and stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to continue working on that for next year.
Yeah, and I think your reflection, Kara, on like the number of stations is super valuable for other teachers thinking about doing this. Also about like exactly like you said, the language and technology abilities of your students, like it worked better in the level 3 than the level 1, and that maybe a choice board, like you said, would be more appropriate for level 1 starting out. That's some super valuable tips. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, Frank?
I just wanted to say, your colleague was teaching the same course in the next classroom, or did you manage to combine your students? I'm just not too clear on that.
Yeah, so she was right next door. So she's in the class next door. So we collaborated on a lot of things. So it was that's the thing. I got really lucky this year and we worked really well together. So it worked out really well.
Yeah, and to your comment of not having enough space, you found the creative idea to use the classroom next door. This is something which is becoming more and more prevalent even at our board, that teachers are now, because of low registrations, are forced to teach multi-level and then have 28 to 35 students. And they're thinking, oh my goodness, how do I use my space now? I'm going to try to attempt to use stations. And they have knocked on the doors on their colleagues and said, can we try something? And, or even what happens is that some classrooms are actually empty. So they ask their administration, look, I'm trying something different. I want to use up 2 classrooms. That's okay. And sure, they get the go ahead. But these are sometimes to think of outside our brick and mortar, just like you did, Kara, to knock on the door and say, hey, I want to try this, but I just simply can't because there's no physical space, which can lead to chaos.
Yeah, for sure. Pheleshia?
Wow, so much fun. I love doing centers. So actually, speaking of centers, what I used to do is I used to differentiate between my stations and my centers. Stations would be what would rotate and centers would be permanent. So for example, in my class, I have a coloring station and I have the computer station, and they're permanent. And something I used to do is, you were mentioning a choice board. So a kind of choice board that's like a tic-tac-toe board, but with lots more squares. So your tic-tac-toe would be way longer, or even like almost like a bingo card. And you give the students all these choices of centers that they have to accomplish in a week, instead of having it timed 20 minutes each. And that way each student gets to work at their own pace. And what is really cool about that, you were talking about students not talking together, etc., is that often students will then choose to go to centers together, and then they will interact based on what the activity is. So that's one thing. The only thing about that, though, is that you want to make sure that they also go with people that they don't know. So you can have, stations or centers set up specifically for that. But I also found, because I taught elementary for many years, that even in elementary, having like the stations that are 20 minutes rotation and all of that, it created a lot of anxiety, like stress for the students. But giving them that choice to just, and I found them even more engaged, more on task, because they would come in and they would be like, okay, here's my clipboard, here's my choice board, grid, tic-tac-toe, whatever, and here I go to work. So I think that's awesome. That's I think that would be a really good choice. Have you thought of maybe even sending students maybe to the cafeteria to do some things, or, you know, like have different types of centers, stations around the school, you know, even in the hallway here?
Yeah, for sure. And we have a computer lab too, which is really
there you
nice.
go.
So yeah, we for sure use that too. But those are all really good tips. Thank you so much, Pheleshia.
Or hang them by the ceiling, you know. Good job, Kara.
Thank you.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, Priscilla is next. Thank you, Kara. That was very in-depth, and those pits, yeah, they need to be addressed for sure. And finding viable solutions together, giving each other some advice is exactly and precisely why we're here. Priscilla, you're on.
Yeah, okay, good morning, everyone. So I'm like Karen, so I have my site in the Google Slides. So if it's possible, if you could just go to the slides, and then we can, maybe that's the best thing to do, just go to the slide presentation, and then we can click on the link, like what we did with.
I'm not sure if someone's quicker than I am, but I'm going to try getting to it.
Thank you.
What slide number would that be, if anyone?
Oh, I think I'm just after Pheleshia, maybe, or Annie, maybe just after Annie.
13, slide number 13.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Whoa. What's going on here? Sorry about that. I'm getting a little disoriented. My mouse seems to be fooling around. So right here, Priscilla, just to be sure.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, thank you. Okay, good. All right. So as Karen was saying, we've had a little bit of help from Matthew Kennedy, which has been really helpful. Just putting everything together. So I think what I'll do is I'll just go through. Can everybody hear me okay? Yeah, I'll just go through this site, and then I think the best thing would be, I've got a little video as well, just explaining some things. So just the teacher page, I'll just. Okay, well, this is a little video that I put together, just a short little reflection on the stations. So feel free to play that. And then I think what I'd like to do is just go to the student page and go through some of the different stations that I did with the students. Hey everyone, just thought I'd give you a bit of an update on my station rotation that I did with my French class. So it was all in all a very positive experience. They really enjoyed working together. There was a group of 6, and so they were working in groups of 2, and they basically moved through all the 5 stations. They really wanted to complete all the stations, so that was a good positive experience for them. Some of the feedback that they gave me was that it was refreshing, fun and motivational, and they really enjoyed working together and helping each other, and that it was really community building. They also said that they really liked the time pressure, so 20 to 25 minutes per station. It helped them to keep focused, and they enjoy the variety. And one student said that, you know, it didn't get boring because there were a lot of different activities going on. One student said that it was hard when a partner didn't collaborate. So some things to improve on, maybe switching up the groups after each station, and maybe also when a student has finished a station, they can either go on and help somebody else who may be having difficulty, or, you know, do another activity that's being planned. So all in all, it was a positive experience, and I would definitely do it again. Thank you. Okay, so so there we go. So maybe we could just go up to the student page. So I had a stations checklist. So they had that with them as they were rotating from station to station. So I think that was helpful for them to, you know, just to check things off. I think I'd like to maybe be a little bit more specific in my checklist. I mean, it was fine, but maybe, yeah, just to be a little bit more specific, I think would be good for the students. And then what I did was I had some Google Slides. So I put the explanations in for each of the stations. So I went through each of the slides. So station one was the Ed puzzle, and they had three videos to go through. And so basically the theme was describing your country, and also places to visit in Canada. So that was sort of the general theme for all the stations. And then the second station was vocabulary, and where they had to write sentences based on the vocabulary that they had in the first part of that station. And so they were working in groups of 2. So for the second station, it was a station where they really had to collaborate together, and they were able to help each other out with the creation of these sentences. And then I also thought, okay, and there needs to be something else a little bit more creative within this station. So they recorded themselves. They had to choose three to 5 sentences and record themselves on their phone. So they all downloaded the voice memo app, which, yeah, they all seem to do that pretty easily. And then once they finished that, then they sent it to my email. And then after that, I listened to them, and then I gave them some feedback in an email. So station 3 was the listening station. So they had two options. So they had something from their workbook for the first listening thing with some questions, and also a video from Franco Lab about the city of Ottawa. And then there were other questions that they could go through as well. So that was more individual. And then station 4 was a reading comprehension. So there were 2 texts. This was my least favorite station, to be honest. Yeah, it's just so they had two texts to read, and then one of the students had to write questions on Belgium, and the other student had to write questions on Ireland, and then they had to ask each other the questions, and they switched papers, and the other student answered their partner's questions. So that one was a little bit confusing, but they eventually got the hang of it. So yeah, and then the last station was a teacher-led station. which I was really happy I had this teacher-led station because it just gave me a chance to work with them a little more closely. So they had a list of words from a dialogue, and then they had to practice those words, and then they had to come up with some of their own words as well. And then I would help them with the pronunciation. So I feel like that was a good one. I tried to circulate, if there was nobody at the teacher-led station, I would try and circulate as much as possible. Oh yeah, just to let you know, we only had 6, I think I said that in my video, but we only had 6 students. But I was very happy that we had at least 6, because yeah, I was a little bit worried about the numbers, but it all came together. So there's some photos, like I think in the maybe if you could just scroll down a bit, maybe. Oh yeah, so these are just some. So basically what I did, I've included some of the links for each of the stations. And yeah, so I was thinking about something that one of you said about the links disappearing. I did notice that with one of the Ed Puzzle videos that one of them is no longer. So that's something I think I need to look into. And then I provided a sample recording of one of the students for the second station and a sample video for the third station. And oh, okay. And then I think station 5. Yeah, station 5. Oh, okay, sample recording. Oh, hold on. Okay, sorry. Something's up with station 4. I'll have to check that out. And then station 5, I provided the dialogue and then the words that I included. So that just gives you a little bit of an idea of the various stations. And there's some pictures that Matthew took. I think they're under the teacher, page. Yeah, there we go. So here's just a few photos of my students working. So I had directions on the desk, but Gwen, as you were saying, yeah, they were still, or Pheleshia, yeah, you were saying too, that they were still saying, okay, so what do we do? But they were there on the desk. That's with instructions. I did go through all the stations one at a time before they started. I don't know if it was too much of an overload, but or if I could do that a bit differently. I don't know. Because I did it all in French. It was all explained in French. So I think maybe one thing that I would do differently is maybe switch the groups up a little bit. So they were in groups of 2, and they moved around from station to station with the same partner the whole time. I know one student said it was very difficult to collaborate with her partner. So I was thinking, yeah, maybe it'd be good to switch things up, just so they have a chance to work with other people. But they were all really, really studious and really conscientious and enjoyed moving around. They enjoyed just the variety. So it was a really good experience for them. It was a real learning curve, like for me too. And I would, it'd be nice to keep learning and know how to perfect ways of doing the station rotation. Yeah, so I think that's about it.
Pheleshia, I see you have your hand up. Go ahead.
I've just been hearing, like, in the different station rotations, how students are always together in the different stations. Another thing I used to do is on that grid that I would give each student of all the different possible centers and stations, I would ask them that they sign, like, underneath, there would be a place for them to sign with whoever was in the center with them at the same time. And the goal would be to get to be with every single person in the class during different centers. So they had almost that challenge as well to get everybody's signature on their board.
Oh, that's a good idea.
So that's a way to do it without saying you're not allowed with the same person,
Right, yeah.
Yeah, it becomes more of like a bit of a treasure hunt.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Go ahead, Emily and Gail, and then I'll pipe in.
Yeah, a quick tip for the links, checking if the links work. I always test in incognito mode on Google Chrome if I make a website, and that way you're not like logged in as yourself on Google Chrome, and that way you'll be able to see which links do or don't work. That was a tip I got from Abby.
Oh, okay. So okay.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
We're going to need a bunch of tech tips after this. That'll be time savers. Go ahead, Gail.
I just wanted to say that, congratulations on going to that much effort for a small group, because the rewards are equal, no matter how many are in the class. And sometimes might be easier to dismiss going to that kind of effort. So congrats on that. And also to find material in French is more challenging. So you really managed to include a lot in another language that is super valuable and often takes more work to put together.
Thank you. Yeah, I think, I wrote in my slide that I think that was one of my biggest challenges, is just finding the appropriate content, so that things flowed as much as possible. So sometimes I felt that, maybe there could have been a bit of a better flow, but yeah.
And creating the website, is that something that you do for your classes generally, or that you wanted to do for this in particular?
Well, I mean, like I said, Matthew Kennedy was a huge help. So, but I really like that whole setup. I think it's really nice for me, but nice for the students to be able to just see everything on one page and then find the links, click on the links. So
What was particularly impressive, Priscilla, is the lengths that you went to support and guide them. I mean, everything is well structured, it's guided, especially the pronunciation, sending in their own voice text to you. I mean, I wish I was taught French this way. I'd probably be much better off now. I mean, you're really harnessing the power of new technologies, but combining it also with print material. I saw that each station had their specific instructions in French. This is a lot of planning and a lot of time. But like I said, you're mixing old and new quite fluently, to use a linguistic term.
Thank you. Yeah, it's nice when you do get some brain waves. Like, if I just felt like, oh, it's a little bit dry, how can I make it a little more interesting? So the whole voice memo app, I thought was a neat thing to be able to incorporate, and nice for them to be able to hear themselves too.
And hear themselves knowing that they're going to get feedback from you with the particular focus of that feedback. It's
yeah.
All right.
So I used Genially, and I will say right off the bat that it is not complete, and I haven't had a chance to pilot it yet either. So I'm gonna take you through a brief walkthrough. Just a little sequence tab, giving a sense. So this is for a novel study, and ideally they would have read at least a quarter of the novel. And the idea would be that as they do this playlist, they would also be reading the novel and meeting with the teacher. Learning objectives. And then you go into the intro. And so one of the things that was a little bit labor intensive and time consuming is I did make some videos. I won't show you the whole thing, but I'll give you a little.
In Secondary 5 English, you will be expected to write a critical analysis essay of a novel.
Blah, blah, blah. Little interactive question. And all of these are clickable elements. The focus was on how setting develops the theme. So this is a playlist that the students would work through at their own pace, and opportunities to work individually, in pairs, or in groups. The only thing that I still have to figure out is how to get them to be accountable so that they just don't flip through everything. So whether it's some kind of a hard copy checklist, or if I pay for the premium of Genially for some kind of tracking. This is a video of one of my colleagues that I doctored up a little bit.
So let's talk about setting in relation to a novel. When we're reading a novel, and in any story, the setting.
So you can go through there and kind of what do you already know? And then a little quiz on what was covered so far. Little quiz questions. So this was based on Catlin Tucker's playlist, which her format was through like a Google Doc. I decided to use Genially instead, but I might use the doc as like the accountability form. Okay, so then the next section is about supporting evidence. And so this is an activity where they would make a collage about how setting affects their life, and then discuss that with a partner. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. Another wee video here about how setting.
Hello, students. Today,
make you listen to that. And another activity here where they listen, and I got this from an idea from one of my colleagues. They listen to different movie trailers. So there's an individual path option or a group path option, and they have to describe the complex setting. So they do that, and then there's answers for that as well that they could check. This is meant to be a drag and drop. I don't know if it's working yet, but let's see, no, I have to fix that. This is like an interactive thing, an example of all the elements of the paragraph. So I use one of the examples from the trailers from the Hate You Give, so that this will be familiar with that to them. And then a recap of the key ideas for the first part, a little quiz. And then the next section, outlining. So this is where they would examine student documents and highlight them. So unfortunately, I thought that they would be able to highlight right in here, but that doesn't work. So I'm going to have to figure out another option. So there's like a paragraph here and a paragraph here. And a couple of Khan Academy videos to go deeper. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this yet, but I saw this in part of Step Up. They had this visual that I thought might be an interesting way of breaking down the paragraph elements as well. This is another Canva idea where they will, I've made a template. So kind of each slide is a sentence in the paragraph, and I provide an example, and they're supposed to draft their paragraph. This kind of needs work too, but maybe it will go somewhere. And just a little, we're talking about the writing process. And then I took this from Caitlin Tucker's idea of using Grammarly to check their grammar. And this was interesting. I found out about No Red Ink, which I'm going to meet with one of the reps to know more. You can have a free version, and then there's the premium version. So there's some activities that they can do linked to paragraph writing and in-text citations. And then the last part where they're writing their final draft. Oops, I think I clicked on the wrong thing, sorry. And this isn't fully developed yet, but getting into the final session where they'll use a checklist, do some peer review. I'm not sure what I'm going to do audio wise, but it kind of looks cool. This was part of the template. And I thought maybe they could record themselves reading their paragraph also in Canva, or if they prefer, maybe in Flipgrid. So providing them with those templates, and then another little quiz. And you can see now, this is kind of as far as I got in terms of the, there's like a quiz section and a closure section that is not yet developed. So that's as far as I got in using Genially. And then, yeah, the blended learning template that Caitlin provided. Like I said, I think I would maybe use that as a hard copy. So that's as far as I got.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So, 2 questions. How long did it take you to do all that so far? Have you logged the hours?
No, but what did permit me to put in, like, I really needed like big chunks of time, like full days to really make progress.
Right.
In any time where I just had like an hour here and there, I really couldn't make that much progress. Yeah.
And how do you envision using it in a class? Like, do you have a time frame for what you do, like 3 slides a day, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I was thinking that it's hard to say, like with maybe a week or maybe even 2 weeks. Like
it almost looks like a full course in there.
Yeah. And like if you're reading it, if you're doing it to kind of alternate while reading the novel study.
Right.
So that could be interesting. Like maybe you could read, like the teacher could read in small groups with students while they're working on this.
Right.
Something like that. I don't know. I'm gonna see if I can pilot it with a teacher soon.
And if the like it's pretty easy for the students, if they click on whatever links you have, it'll pretty user friendly for all of your.
Yeah, once I get it totally finished, like I said, it's not fully developed yet, and I want to add like Other things like, since it's a playlist, I would love to have more kind of background music sometimes, things like that. And I was thinking also about like how you could gamify it a bit more. And so I would like to, there is like a Genially Academy that I want to like to learn all the little fun things that you can do. You can really gamify it apparently. So lots to learn still.
Great, thanks.
Also, Nancy, you should totally start a podcast. I would subscribe no matter what you were talking about. Melanie, is your computer working?
In theory, yes. Sorry. They reformatted the whole thing and it erased all the permissions that allow me to do things, which is fun. Okay, let's see.
Let's give it a shot.
I think we're good now. All right, so hang on. I'm gonna show you my project kind of snowballed. And I feel as I'm listening to these presentations a little bit underprepared, but only because it didn't take the form I wanted it to. So what I had originally envisioned was to create something very similar to what Nancy just showed, but for the entire class. So the whole class has that interactive element to it. And then I realized that it was, for me at this point, with all the classes I'm teaching, because I do individualized English and computers. And so while, yes, we had some time here to do little things, it was too much for me to do that whole class. But then I thought, as I was doing this, I want this to be all of my classes. So it snowballed into me turning the poems and songs into an interactive course, to trying to figure out a way to use a website like this for my entire, there's like 21 different courses. And the idea is, instead of spending all that time trying to get them into their individual courses and onto their individual platforms, which is a struggle we have, to have one link. So all they really need to know is how to log into our computers, and then they can get started. So I don't know that I for sure have what I need to show you, but I'll show you all the like the website that I created. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you just fine.
Okay, and you can see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Okay, so I also went through a bunch of different platforms to try to figure out how to make this site, and then realized I was being ridiculous because Google Sites links to Google Classroom. Initially, I was thinking of moving away from Google Classroom, but I like the functions to like work collaboratively and have assignments and set things. So the thing I wanted was to have a platform that could help students see things clearer in a more graphic way, and then also to be able to track their work. So, I mean, the first page is just the intro, which I will adapt to being probably the whole course. And then in the course outline section, I made a visual. And one of the issues that we find, at least from what I've seen for a lot of people in our center, is that students don't really know where they're going because they're individualized classes, and because we have so many going on at the same time, they get lost. And so I created sort of a visual of what they have to do in my course. And then this, which I don't like it yet, but I just wanted it to have something so you guys could see, links directly to their classroom. So once they get into Classroom, which is sort of the ugly part of it, then they can just use this website. And the other thing that I have yet to figure out, and if anyone has any suggestions, is how to code this so that when they work on one, the button changes colors. And I know how to do that in actual code, but in Google Sites, I'm not sure how. So if anybody has any idea of how to make it so that it logs what they've actually looked at, it'll be another way to keep track of where they're at. And then aside from that, I've gathered a ton of different resources for this course, because that was the individual idea, was to just change around this course to make it more interactive and have the assignments and poetry and songs be more relevant to them. So then I started putting together this resource page, which also is not complete, but then got bogged down with people not knowing how to get into Google Classroom. So I made this infographic that that I was either going to print or just put up on my website, and each one is a link to help them get into their Google Classroom, and then also on a first day in an individualized class, if there's a lot of students, what to do. So step by step, which I was hoping a little bit more graphically. So that was one that took a little while. And then this one is something I actually found on Canva and then sort of changed around, but has a lot of really great visuals for the different types of poetic devices and figurative language and things like that. So this is where I'm at. As far as what I think, I do have a presentation I can show you, but I don't think it's necessary. As far as what I think went well is that I started sort of coming to terms with the reality of an individualized classroom with this went many things. So while I had these big grand plans to redo this whole course to be very interactive, I didn't really have the means to try it. So a lot of you guys have really great, like, you put this into practice things, which is making me feel quite inadequate. However, I was taking the things that I was working on and using them with new students. So I'm sort of gathering insight into what they think works with regards to the course. And then I've had some students testing out my website as I've been doing it to make sure that permissions are okay. I'm sort of trying to integrate some grammar stuff that's also a new website. And so I'm having some students test that at the same time. Ones that I think have the computer literacy to help me so that I'm not necessarily having to explain it to them. And then I'm going to do ones that are really kind of at a lower level to see where they're at with it. And that's kind of where my project has taken me this year. So I have some things, and I think that once I kind of wrap my head around the format of how to use this website, also someone can maybe tell me, I think I can publish this so that it is only viewable by students with our like school's website, right? It doesn't have to be a out there for everybody website. I don't know if anybody has that. That's what I read, and that's what I think, but this is what makes me nervous about publishing websites, is that I don't necessarily want it to be out there for everybody. And that's why also linking Google Classroom, where they have to actually be in the class to get those assignments, I think works well, but that's where my head is. So
thanks so much for sharing, Melanie. Yeah, I think you're right. You can publish just to like within your board. I think you would see that under like the publish options, I think.
Yeah, that's why I also didn't put it in the slides, because it's not published yet. And I can send you guys the link to it if you want me to, but if you're not in my board, I'm not sure that you'll be able to see it.
Sheila, is that related to, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I have a website. The website is public, but the posts are private to my board. So that's doable. And then anyone outside can't see what you actually put in there.
How do you do that, Sheila?
It's through the settings, whatever the share settings are on everything that I put in the website.
So it maybe be like to SharePoint or something, and it's your private SharePoint.
So it's for us, it's just anyone in our board. It's general. It's an LB Pearson website. So I've put it only for LB Pearson people.
Is that through Google Sites also?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So that's what I think I saw when I looked at the publish, and then I was looking through some documents that I can do that. I get a little nervous when I start doing these things and didn't publish it and haven't tested it. And
well,
I'm on my way.
Yeah, Emily said you could, test it with incognito to see what gets published and what doesn't.
Yeah.
And it's nice to have both, right? Because sometimes there are things that it's okay if other people see it and you want students maybe or whatever. Anyway, it's doable.
Yeah, I want the site to be something that people can see. I just don't want it to necessarily be accessible in all aspects. And I also, I think the idea of having it as a website rather than a classroom initially is that I can just give out the site, and on their phones or whatever, they can get into it. And then as I go through my courses, I'm not necessarily going to have to continuously get them into new things. It'll all be the same platform. So my hope is that all of that ambiguity and that change thing will eventually just not be there. So they come into my class, and at the beginning they start in whatever level they're in, and as they move through the class, it's just a matter of picking a different tab, not necessarily going to a different site. But I think that's going to take me a little while to get all of it in there.
Yeah, to Sheila's point, I think like the way that you have it now works really well, that like people can see the website, but they can't access the assignments unless they're one of your students in your Google Classroom. Plus, I mean, like there's a bajillion websites on the internet. Like it's unlikely that someone would like stumble across yours unless they had the link through this project, say.
Also, do you guys want to see something awesome?
Yes, always.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen again. So I was having trouble with what I wanted the course description to be, and I kept writing things and it sounded too like teacherly. I don't know, I didn't like it. And so then I used ChatGPT and I wrote it, write me a course description for poems and songs for secondary 4. And this is literally word for word what it came up with. And I am so blown away at how like on point it is about what I teach and how I like it. It's like it's actually taken my course.
What did you feed it in order to give it this?
I wrote, write me a course description for a secondary, for a grade 10 English class on poems and songs. And that's all I wrote.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Right. I've used it once for a reference letter. I was trying to help someone do that, but I had never done this. And I was just blown away at how accurate, like it, even down to like what types of, I don't know, it almost sounds like my voice, which I think I'm giving myself a little bit too much credit, but still I was quite blown away at how well that worked. Also terrified.
A bit of both, eh? Very cool.
Okay. I'll stop sharing that, sorry.
Annie, you are next.
Okay, so the problem I stumbled on doesn't really have to do with blended learning, but more our center's reality. So at first, when we started last year, in the beginning of this year, I was looking forward to doing more like a station rotation project because we have small groups and all different levels. So it was kind of a way to have different corners in the classroom to make them like interact and work together. But this year, the way they made the schedule, because we're many centers and whatsoever, they have all their classes online only, except French. So we had 7 students at the beginning of the year in the classroom, and then they realized that they were coming to the center only for like a 2-hour French class, and all the rest was online. So they ended up not coming at all, except for exams, all of them. So I said, okay, how do I do this? So I decided to go more towards like a hyperdoc with choice boards and playlists that they could have on their Google Classroom and like go to for their class and be kind of independent, but still encouraged to collaborate and all that. So I will share my screen. There. So I chose, can you all see? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So I chose the file cabinet choice board. The team is 5103 French. So it's Communiquer pour trouver un emploi, which is basically doing your resume, presentation letter, and job interview in French. Now, the other problem I found, of course, like others said, is that there is not that much material in French. I would have liked to have more videos, make it more lively, but the videos that I would find online would be French from France, which is useless because we live in the Gaspé and the accent of the people around here and the way they speak has nothing to do with the French accent that you find online. So I used a couple of videos that I found that were from Quebec, but there's not as many as I would have liked to. So maybe my future goal would be to actually create videos, interview people that do different jobs around me and like have them agree to be part of my class. So it goes like this. You have 5 days of the week. So 5 main subjects. You can click on each drawer of the cabinet, and in each drawer you have 4 files with the subjects defined for each file. So if I were to choose, for example, Monday, it's domaine d'emploi. So you would find list des domaines d'emploi. You could click on that and it will bring you to a website with different job domains. And then I created Le Monde de l'Emploi, which is a link to another Google slide where you can kind of explore three main fields of jobs that we have here in the Gaspé. And these are also courses related to courses that we give in our center after they're finished their high school. So they can watch a video on préposé aux bénéficiaires or go here and read about what it is to be a nurse. You have the same thing with construction. So working as a construction equipment
Annie, are you clicking around? If you're clicking around, we can't see that.
Oh, no?
No.
Oh, that's weird. Okay, I don't know why.
Did it open like in a separate window somehow? Maybe you only shared a specific window or tab or something?
Maybe you need to run the slideshow. Because right now you're just showing us all the slides.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's because when I clicked share, I thought I'll stop sharing.
Click slideshow, not share.
Share screen. But I have to share my screen for you guys to see, no?
You share the
Yes,
screen
yes.
and then in the slideshow, you click slideshow, not share within the slideshow, because the buttons are side by side.
Blend, okay, that's choice board. Okay.
So the word slideshow, click on that, and you should have the option to present or run it. On the right-hand side, right-hand.
Oh, it's on the right. I was looking on the left. There.
And now try them.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay, so this is what I was talking about. You can explore different field jobs, watch videos, or read texts about different jobs. Here, fishing, there's a short video about a fisherman in our town and stuff like that. So basically each drawer has activities like this. So you start by looking at different jobs, then job search. So when you go in job search, you will learn how to fill out a job application form, and you have different examples. Then you have little activities, little quizzes to learn about the vocabulary. And then you get to the resume. So different, you can explore a website or watch a video, which will teach you how to write the different sections of your resume. Then you have vocabulary, verbs, exercises that you can do online, videos that will give you lessons on how to conjugate verbs and stuff like that. Sorry. So luckily this one was from Quebec, so it was we could understand better. Then you get to write in your application letter for your job. So you have, well, different advices, lessons on how to do the punctuation, example of job application letters that you can go to. And then you have all the steps to write your letter. For every step, if you click, you have a link that teaches you how to write it. So how to write the date in French, how to write addresses in French. And then when you get to your paragraphs, I created another Google Doc with paragraph 1, what needs to be in it, paragraph 2, and so on and so on. So I really wanted this I wanted something that they could work by themselves, because often they just close their camera and it's really hard for me to actually see where they're at and all that. So that was the goal. Oh, and also at the end of each, like the last files, they have a Jamboard. So they do like the lessons, the activities, and then they get to collaborate on a Jamboard. So they'll put their answers there, and it will just add up so they can see the other, what other people put. So here they had to name a job and what they learned about the job, because they did like, they had to interview a person that was doing a job and record it. And then, so that's a way that they can share with people. Okay, well, here I interviewed a fisherman. Here's what I learned about their job. And so other students can take a look at that Jamboard and see other people's answers. And the final activity is a simulation of a job interview. So again, you have different things to learn, and you have a document to share with your class. So questions to ask to the after, like at the end of the job interview, what questions could you ask the employer when they say avez-vous des questions, and they'll all put them there. And at the end, they will do a job interview that they will record, and they'll get a grid where they get to evaluate their coéquipier there, and then they'll do the same for themselves to kind of self-evaluate and kind of get better, like, you know, highlight their strengths and their weaknesses as for a job interview. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So here I can't see, yeah, okay. So yeah, so here they have, yeah, the description of what they need to do for their job interview on another Google Doc with all the links that refer to what they have learned that they'll need to do it. So we finished on the 28th of April, so I didn't have time to try it out with the students, but I'm looking forward to it for next year.
Thank you, Annie. This is so cool. I like that it's like broken down for the student as well. Like, here's what you need to accomplish today. All right, we have a couple of hands raised. Paulette.
Annie, that's really cool. And Kelly is here. I can't see, I'm in the gallery view, but I'm working with some teachers at NFSB, and we're actually creating a similar thing. And I saw that one of your questions was about an exit ticket. Well, what we did is every time they go somewhere, we've taken either from the program or for whatever, and we've given them little exit tickets. So for example, they do the first section, and then either they have to send a list to their teacher, yes, or they have to do something. And that's how we actually built it. We went to the end and then we built it back. And it was really easy to make sure that we covered everything we needed to cover.
Yes.
And there was a slide that was called exit ticket.
Yeah.
And that way, as a teacher, you know, right? Because, you know, they come to you and they say it's all done, and then you know it's not done.
Yeah. No.
Right? And that way it really guided them. Well, we haven't tried it, but we're hoping it's going to work. But it's like a guide, like it's like a checklist. Okay, I need to send this to the teacher before I can do this.
Exactly.
So that's something that
I would definitely do that. Have an exit ticket after each day, for example. After Monday, exit ticket, and then you can go to Tuesday and so on.
Exactly.
And so on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great.
Annie, when she showed this to me, Annie asked me a question that I could not answer. So I'm throwing it to all of you, like to see if you can get to help us with this. This has been made and built up like in Google Slide. One of the things that Annie hoped to achieve was to all the different recordings of the job interview simulations. Annie was willing like to have some of them, at least, if not all of them, accessible to all students so they can just use these rubrics like to do like the kind of check of others' work or even their own. How can we make like all different recordings available to the students? Because it can hardly be like record and put it in the slideshow, like students don't have access like to upload this. So we were looking for solutions, but I couldn't find something intelligent to tell. So like that's why I'm using a brain here.
I can answer that quickly. You can add them, upload them to YouTube and make a playlist and make it a private or an unlisted playlist so that not everybody can find it and that you need the link to get it.
Okay, yeah.
Suggestion. That's what I did for a lot of my English classes that I had videos for. All right, we're going to need to move on because we have 3 more people to go. Sandra is next.
Okay. Okay. Everyone can hear me and all of that. All right. I'm going to say what my pit of my peach was. It took me 45 minutes to get the video on for this new computer I have. And that kind of leads into me. My presentation is very simple. I stick with a PowerPoint that I'm going to maybe try to turn into more station rotation or a playlist. But I did English 5101, which is English and plays. I changed. I had been doing the interview one, and I did it because there's one aspect of 5101, which is they have to do a monologue from a movie or a play. And it always ends up to be something I just throw at them because there's a very small module of 25 hours only. And there's so much more to teach them about analysis that it becomes an afterthought. So I found a PowerPoint actually made or created from Natasha Bellows from Pearson. And so I've used that, and I'll share my screen and kind of just talk about it. But my situation is I either have 1 person in the module or 5 people in the module. So I had to try to make what I do. Oh boy, here we go. Okay. I had to make what I do. Oh. Are you guys seeing this? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. It's a different computer. I knew this would be crazy. Okay. Okay, there we go. This is what I do in class as well. Okay, you guys can all see that, right?
Yep.
Okay. So I have to make almost everything I do fit individual, so somebody can go on a computer and do it. And we have computers in our class, laptops every day if we want. I also have, for example, a student who is finishing something at a different center. So she's only coming on for half an hour onto Teams every day to get what we do for like a week. So she has to have something individualized. And now I have 4 students in my class that are in the same module. So it's good you can do group stuff. So this is hopefully a flexible way to do it. Okay. So this is part of, thank you, Natasha, if you guys know her or anything. It talks about what's a monologue. They can then go through, watch the idea of a monologue when it comes to an audition, which is when the examples they would get most of all for monologues. And then there's lots of examples. I'm working on getting even more examples because these are mostly from movies and I want some more from plays, but that gets difficult. So there's the actual monologue, and then here you can watch the monologue. So I would probably, if I have students in class, I would model this and then they would watch other ones, or individualize a line, they would just do their own thing. And so more examples, these are very traditional, big, giant monologues from movies. And then I stuck in, what do you think? Just to get them talking. Now, my students, even if I would have put in something that they could do this online, like an extra slide or whatever, they insistently, almost from the first student to the last student will write it on paper at home and take a picture of it and send it to me. So I haven't figured out a way to get them to actually join me in the land of putting it into the program. Okay, and then they watch 2 monologues and decide which one they prefer. So we start talking about why and analyze what they're doing in it. And then they have a chance to also do the broader social message about what the monologue is. So it just keeps them engaged, hopefully, in the monologue. Hang on, I lost my place. Okay. And then we start talking about this 4 principles of acting, which is part of the monologue, which ends up being short shifted usually if I don't have this up here. It worked this time. I did this with my students just 2 weeks ago and it worked. And so they talk about this. The other thing about this is it's best when you give them some of the book pages that are in the SOFAD book that has to do with this idea of the 4 principles of acting, if they have a little knowledge. If not, you probably have to kind of pre-teach a little about this before you give them the whole thing. Okay, so then I guess it's self-explanatory. So we give them a emotion and a character description, and then here's the emotions and character description. This one I did with paper. Like I printed all this out and they did it together at different tables and groups. So they have, you know, different kind of characters. I would have to tweak that. This was kind of just a quick one. And then here's the monologue. So it's not really a monologue, but it's just a grocery list. I've done this not online or blended learning. I've done it in class. And every time I do it in class, the students are always better with their actual monologue during the exam because you force them to put some emotions behind words. So, and then the last thing and what they have to do for the exam is they have to choose a monologue. And this takes a couple of days. And that's what I do. And my peach was that I got all these resources. My pit, of course, was the time, and my learning curve is so steep for me. I would do things differently by, at first I was trying to do all the platforms. Oh, maybe I should put this in Google. Maybe I should put it in Teams. And I've decided to stick with one thing and do it. And my challenges is, of course, time, and then also teaching students tech that I barely know myself, because they really don't. In fact, in Teams, I'm having to link the actual file to them because they can't find it when they go into our Teams. So, and the other thing that I learned is at first when we all started this, I was trying to make this beautiful project for this unicorn of a class of 20 students in the same module, the same level. And so I realized I just need to tailor it to what I individually am doing. And then, you know, like they say, the individual can become universal. So I hope. So that's it.
Go ahead, Emily. I think you have your hand up, but your microphone's off.
Yes, it is. Thank you. Thank you, Sandra. About Teams and finding things on Teams, I hear that we're also a Microsoft board. Microsoft is reworking their Teams thing to make it look more like Google Classroom, which is much more intuitive and easier to follow. I stuck a link in the chat for what that's going to look like. There's going to be like, you can have like chapters or like days of the week or whatever it is. So they're not going to have to be looking in files and changing channels and all these things. Like, it'll be a little bit easier for them to navigate, hopefully.
Great. I'll be happy for that.
I'm curious about that grocery list. It's just, how did the students react to that with the, you know, trying to give a different emotion to what seemingly is an arbitrary list, but how did that work out? That's really...
Yeah, they like it. And in fact, if I have more students in class, I will just make them all stand up and they have the grocery list in their hand and I will shout out, I'll go angry, and then they all have to read 3 or 4 of the things angry. I used to do that in the CCBE classes when, you know, for pronunciation. I don't know, we had that in a, where you would, because they can't, a lot of people have trouble saying, where were you in English? So they say if you put emotion behind it and then forget about the words, they say it better. So I used to do that too. So it works really well. You just got to get the students in the class. That's the big thing.
Thank you, Sandra. You certainly built up on what Natasha Bellows published a while back, and it's been circulating. And this is kind of the premise of what we're doing here today, that everything that's been produced here today will eventually make its way into the systems and circulate and save teachers time to not start anything from scratch. And yeah, kudos to you, Sandra. The teaching monologues in the 25-hour course that's also supposed to be teaching play appreciation is certainly tough, and I can see how it falls by the wayside quite often. But plenty of models built in there.
Hopefully.
Sarah.
Okay, my turn. I really like that grocery list, Sandra. I'm going to use the grocery list. How do I share my screen? I was laughing earlier because I was trying to put my hand up, and I was going through all the emoticons, and I was like, wow, where is it? And I realized it's like the first thing on the main page. You don't have to look that hard. But Microsoft over here, haven't been on Zoom for a while. Anyways, I also made a Genially, and it's more of an overview of my experience. It's not like an interactive one. I chose Genially because I haven't used it for a while, and I wanted to use Genially for this project, but then I ended up going back to Google Slides for convenience and time. But I was doing this project with my computer science class, and I kind of just overview how this transitioned for me. So I was keeping these 3 questions in mind at all times into what am I doing this for? What is my purpose? Like, what I want my students to take away from it. And in February, I was like, I'm going to do station rotation. It's going to be multimedia production. It's going to be great. And then in March, I was like, never mind. It's like that course is done. So I'm going to do station rotation with Excel. And it's going to be for advanced functions. And I really hummed and hawed a lot about that. And thank you also, Emily, for sending me some video content on Excel. I discovered there's a lot of video content already out there on Excel. Then that course ended. And I had to switch again to Intro into Microsoft, but now I'm back in Excel. So I was able to come full circle. But I ended up switching from station rotation to playlist in the end. I did one with station rotation. Anyways, I'll unpack that a bit more in the next slide. So this was the first station rotation I did with the Excel advanced functions. And first and foremost, as you guys are going to see in the pictures, we're using the desktops because I am in the computer lab. Our school has laptops on all the different floors, but I have the only computer lab. So I feel like it makes more sense for me to just use the computers rather than occupy the laptops for a teacher who doesn't have a computer lab. Some of the peaches of this, the students really enjoyed working through the content on their own pace. They liked the idea of moving around the classroom, and they seemed to enjoy the team building experience. Initially, when I made the video for this, though, I conceptualized it that they would do it by themselves, and they did not want to do it by themselves. They were not interested in station rotation alone whatsoever. They were like, we want to do it together, which I get. Excel functions are hard, and we had done them once as a class before. This was like their first time doing it alone, though. So I think that they really benefited from being able to work with one another. And then later on, they went through the content again by themselves. Some pits, we only meet twice a week, so time is very precious. And honestly, for the Excel Advanced Functions class, I've asked if I could have every day of the week because there's just never enough time. No one's ever done them. It's always very difficult and it's not super intuitive. So I ended up leaning more on Khan Academy than actually the content that I made because we had a lot of issues with students understanding basic operations and like how to do them, which I hadn't anticipated. So I ended up leaning on Khan Academy a lot in that moment. Something that I would do differently is I would print things ahead of time, which has been the takeaway of all my computer classes this year. I keep thinking it's a computer class and therefore things can be online because like we're going to be on computers. But students want paper. They seem to like to have the option of having paper. What else is on here? Oh yes, the key highlights. So students did not want to work alone. That was like a huge takeaway for me. It's interesting because I've done this across 2 different classes now with 2 different piles of students. This pile of students was like particularly close knit, so they really liked working together. But even my new class, like I find that computers, similar to something that many of my colleagues have said in this,
they're not very well versed on how to use computers, and therefore it's not super easy for them. And like even just getting them to remember their passwords is difficult. Like I think I've changed all their passwords to my name at this point because I can't write the IT guy anymore. It just can't happen. But this was them doing station rotation turned playlist. So after we'd done the station rotation, I just like uploaded everything into a playlist form, and I was okay, just go through it on your own now. And they did, and they seemed to be happy with that method. But then when I got to my new class, and this is my new class now, you can tell because there's daylight in these two pictures, which I teach at night. But we didn't even do the station rotation. We just jumped right into the playlist. And that was largely a result of the fact that the students aren't all present all the time. Like some students show up once every 2 weeks, but that's like they've missed like a month of school then because we only meet twice a week anyway. So that just seems more intuitive in that sense for them to be able to catch up and work at their own pace. It's also been working well in this terms of that, again, Excel is not something people are very well versed on already, so it's good for them to have video content to lean on. Some takeaways and looking forward, I think I'm definitely going to lean on Khan Academy heavily for these videos, only because I find that when I am doing the videos myself pre-recorded, sometimes I skip steps. Like I do the steps without telling them what I'm doing, and that's my own fault. I have to learn to stop and like explain what I'm doing, but because I'm like doing something on a computer, I assume that they can see what's happening, but sometimes I go too fast for them, whereas Khan Academy seems to have a better pace than I do. So again, takeaways and looking forward, students enjoyed interacting with the different online content. They pointed out that a lot of the techniques are the same techniques that were integrated earlier in education, like station rotation, which again has come up. I think in elementary school and high school, they do a lot of this already. The only thing that they noticed was different was that this is in a virtual format. Again, students do not want online content, they want paper. So they like to be able to use it at work and in transit. And also they seem to like to have a piece of paper in front of them while they're on the computer. As a teacher, I found it a bit difficult to produce content that aligns with the different options at the DED and also to ensure that the students were prepared for their exams. I definitely did feel the time crunch, and that's when I switched to Khan Academy. This is also partially though because we meet so little. It's so hard to teach that course with like so little time. But I also think that if it's a course that has been taught many, many times before, if I had taught it many times before, it'd be a lot easier for me to produce the content. But because this is like my second time or third time teaching it, I'm still finding content myself before I can actually like make stuff that is of like value to them. But luckily there is a lot of online content, and I think that that helped out a lot. And yeah, I also was really happy I got to integrate this GIF in Ross. Actually, I'm not going to say that. I'll keep that in my head. Stop sharing, Sarah. Stop talking, Sarah.
Sarah, you mentioned something between finding it silly to borrow the laptops because you're going into the computer room. Can you expand on that a little bit? I mean, it's hard to do station rotation in the lab for sure. So
what I ended up doing, because like I ended up just kind of making like what this side of the lab was the station 1, and then like the next part of the lab was station 2, and then station 3 and station 4. So that way, like they were just like kind of maneuvering around them. Only because like I felt like I was like not using the resources fairly in the sense I already had computers. So if I steal all the laptops, then like someone else can't use them, and I don't really need them. I have a lot of computers.
Okay. And just one more comment, considering the Khan economy, you obviously look through the videos, you've curated them. Just if you can, I'm thinking of future computer science teachers that hopefully participate in this project, if you can just kind of lay it out. I mean, I can see the reason why you said creating your own videos can be more problematic and more time consuming, and you take up more steps. So if you've actually gone out there and found Khan economy videos that really lend themselves well to this course, if you can just kind of compile them, which I think you did in your presentation, just want to make sure.
Yeah, that's an easy one, not a problem.
Last and not least, Mish.
Hi everyone, I'll keep it short and sweet. Hey, it's me on the screen. Okay, let me share. Hold on, my brain is a little mashed potatoes at this moment from absorbing a lot of information. So I'm hoping that I can do justice to what I've prepared. Okay, so I had a completely different plan, and I scrapped it halfway, and then I said, no, I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. I'm going to work with something that I'm going to work with something that maybe I've done before, and I'm just going to revamp it. And well, that didn't work either. So I tried to stick with my original plan, which was create 4 stations for pronunciation. So station 1 would be past regular verbs. Station 2 would be listening to authentic text. Station 3 would be contractions, and station 4 would be spelling versus pronunciation. And then I realized that I might need another station because I came to realize that when I do stations, they get tired. Sometimes it's just too much information, and they need to decompress, and sometimes taking a break, then they'll lose their momentum. So having a station like a decompressing station or a chill station might work. I don't have a teacher station because, well, I just don't have one, but I can always include one. So I did this. This is my Google Drive. So I had everything on PowerPoint, and I moved it to Canva because a student gave a presentation in my class and she created videos through Canva. I'm like, oh my God, you can do that. And now I saw Genially, and I'm like, totally on that, by the way. So it might get transferred to that. So I'll keep it really fast because we're running out of time. So I decided to create a lesson plan in case someone did want to use it, but the lesson plan kept shifting, and I don't think it's necessary at this moment. So Sarah said, creating your own videos. So I created my own videos, embedding my own videos. Very meta. So, sorry, I'm a little delirious right now. Like listening so much, now I have to produce. I don't know if you can hear it, because on Teams you have to share sound. I don't know if on Zoom you have to do the same
The
thing.
ED ending of simple past verbs can be pronounced in 3 different ways.
So what happened was I had a different video for each, but what Canva does, it started playing all 3 at once. So I had to revisit that, and that's why it's a little bland. So anyway, so I go ahead and I talk about obviously the 3 EDs, blah, blah, blah. Sure. And then here I am. I did it. I kept doing over and over. And it was a night that I had no makeup. I'm like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. Just do it.
To be able to determine if it's Ed.
I'm exhausted, but that doesn't matter, because students like to see the face of their teacher sometimes when they're doing pronunciation.
When talking about pronunciation, especially in the ED sound, we need to determine if something is voiced
and blah, blah, blah. Okay, you get the picture. And then we go here. And again, I'm doing like.
The reason it's an ED is.
And I'm talking about like the ED sounds. And so that's basically it. And then there's the listen and repeat. So they listen, obviously, and then they repeat. So that's one video. How do I get out of this? Okay. And then they go to an exercise online, which I haven't included here, but it is on, it's here. It's here. Is it here? No, it's not here. I should have been better prepared. Anyway, so they have words that are ED, and they have to put it into the right category. Is it ED, T, or D? That's basically it. The same thing, contractions, another video in which there I am.
Twice. The first time you can listen, and then the second time you can repeat it.
That's the idea. And what did I do here? They basically listen and repeat. Sorry, I'm going really fast because I know we're running out of time. Okay, slow down. And then I give them examples where they get to see it. And again, they're listening and repeating it.
Didn't.
Okay, so there's the idea. They like to do a lot of this, listen to the teacher and repeat it. However, I tried to integrate immersive reader, and that failed miserably because I can't test it. It says that you can view it as a student, but I can't test it as a student. So Emily, if you want to help me on that, that would be awesome, because I really want to integrate it, because that's a great way to test pronunciation. So what I did was, let me go to this one. So this is another video. And then patients are there for the vowel. And then we talk about the IPA and how the letter A is pronounced differently. And what I try to do is I try to integrate. I've never done this before, by the way. I tried to screen share and kind of be like one of those YouTubers who's like, hey, let me show you how this works. I kind of failed because the problem is my computer didn't pick up the sound of Google pronouncing it. It just picked up my sound. So I will show you what I mean, because I click on it, you can't hear.
So here we have Google that helps us with pronunciation. I've put the word able plus the word pronunciation, and Google will give you how to pronounce it. You can see it, and you'll also see the mouth formation. You can also,
and that's a fail because you can't hear it in the example, right? So I love failing, or not failing, I love these hiccups because this is how we learn and this is how we make it better. So this was fun because then I wanted them to take the words that I just introduced them, take a few of these words and punch them into Google pronunciation, and then you can practice it, which I did.
able.
I was like, yeah, good job.
If you make a mistake, and here we're looking at the A letter and how it's pronounced, and I say able, it's going to tell me that I'm not pronouncing it correctly. It's going to give me options, and it will tell me about it.
So I like that. And they've started doing that in class too on their own. And they come and like, look, I did it correctly. So that's fun. Okay. Let me see. Let me get my notes. Okay. So da. I think I condensed what I was going to explain in like a speed amount. And then for their chill station would be to create this origami. And on it, I've done it before with phrasal verbs. So I was thinking of doing it for pronunciation, where they create it and then inside they'll write words where the students will be like, okay, what number or what letter, or A, B, C, D. Let's say they say able, okay, A, B, L, E. And then they'll have to pronounce the word able correctly. It's just really just for fun, so they can like relax a little, but still integrating what they've learned. Is there anything else that I need to? I'm probably missing a few things that I was going to present, but at this moment, we are at 11:47, so I think that's it. What did I enjoy? I just want to stop sharing. Sorry, I work on Teams, not on Zoom, so I'm feeling a bit, it's silly. I can't stop sharing.
Mish, I was right there. I was right there with you.
Okay. Oh, there's no like, okay, so here we are. It's a station, if you haven't noticed, maybe I didn't, and so they'll be rotating. My classroom is a flex classroom. So I'm wondering, do they really need stations in essence? Because when we were in rows, the idea of station was exciting. But now that they're in flex classroom, it's kind of bizarre that they're already sitting in groups and sitting all over the place, that now we're going to do stations, which is, you're already kind of in stations. So the reason all my stations are computer or tech inspired is for them to see the purpose of getting up and moving around. Otherwise, if it was something paper, they would be like, we could just stay where we are and just rotate the activity. Our center does not have laptops. Like we have laptops, we have, the teachers get one, and then not to diss the EMSB, but sometimes we have to beg for them, and we probably will not get them. So I have to bring in my own personal laptop. So that's why this project didn't manifest yet, because I need the tech for it. I would use my desktop, my laptop, and then I probably have to ask students to bring their own laptop, which is kind of strange to do. It's not bad, I don't mind doing it, but we should have that. That's it. Thank you.
Emily, is that a new hand or an old hand?
It's a new hand.
Right.
First of all, those videos in Canva, so cool. They look really good. And what else did I say? I didn't know that Google could do that, like pronunciation stuff. That is so, so cool. I'm definitely going to be sharing that with the teachers at our board. Maybe they already know, and I'm the one that's late to the game, but I think that's so awesome. And you're getting a lot of love for your origami, for spelling and pronunciation. Simple idea, love it.
Just to let you know, for the Google definition, and when you type in a definition, the pronunciation will show up after you click on the speaker. Then it drops down, it shows you pronunciation, and it brings you to the other page.
Mish, concerning you giving your voice and your face on the video and accompanying instructions, the students have given you feedback that they actually prefer that it's you doing this and not some YouTuber or whatever else that you've managed to. I mean, look, there are a lot of great curated videos out there, but I'm just wondering, you've taken the time to make your own. What effect has this had on your students?
The truth of the matter, Frank, is that I'm always looking for a video that, especially for pronunciation, obviously, I can't find it. I can't find what I'm looking for. So it's not like vanity. It's like they want to see me. No, they basically, I basically want these language chunks, or I want this specifically to be pronounced, and I can't find it. So if you can't find it, you have to sort of create it, right?
Thank you, Mish. Melanie, you have a question.
It's not so much a question, just a comment on what you were just saying. The videos you made are great, because one of the things I find is I do use a lot of videos for the different computer classes and stuff I teach, and it's almost like they don't value the information they're getting. They come to me so that I can retell them the same thing. And I always feel that when I have time to sit down and do the same things, I'm going to do them with my face, just because they don't necessarily think, or they think I don't know what it is that they're doing because someone else is teaching it to them. So I think it's a really great asset to put your own face in there. And if it could be done more, I would totally do it.
Thank you, Melanie. Go ahead, Pheleshia.
So true what you just said, Emily, because like we prepare these Google Classrooms, we prepare everything. They have stories they have to watch, they have videos they have to watch, plays, etc. Every single student always asks me, Miss, did you see it? Did you listen to it? Do you know you know the story? Do you know that story? As if it came from nowhere. Like we didn't, you know, I find it hilarious. I laugh every time. Anyway.
Thank you, Pheleshia. Go ahead, Paulette.
Just want to let you know all these great videos you're doing, and this is my first time here because my former colleague Mona used to be the blended learning, so now it's me, and I'm very glad to let you know that. So if you need help with videos or anything tech, I'd be happy to help you. So feel free to reach out to me. I know it's the end of the year, but just so that now we have face to names and we can say that we'd like to work together, and we can work with your consultant and everybody and just get it going. But great work. I'm so impressed. Like, wow, this is a lot of work and really great job. Excellent, everybody.
And the wonderful variety and breadth and scope of everything that was presented today. Nothing was the same. Nothing said was the same. And yet there were a lot of commonalities, a lot of challenges and aha moments that even then were quite different. And some of you found quite quickly that it's easy to start going into that tech rabbit hole, and then you pull back and say, what exactly am I trying to do here? Let's keep this simple with what I know and what I can continue building upon. So kudos to you, and really, there's a lot of references here for us to build upon. And this was that was the gist of this project, to have you pioneer blended learning in a way that other teachers can now follow in the path that you've created. And this is remarkable. And boy, do I have lots to learn. So yeah, Paulette, I'll be picking on your brain, and Mish, I'm going to look at those Canva videos, and yeah, you're giving a workshop soon enough on that. So the pressure's on. Yeah.
I just wanted to thank everyone for finding the courage to try new things and really using this as an opportunity. And it was really moving to see how everyone individualized that. So wherever you began, everyone has advanced, and that's what's key. And it's been really instructive for me and impressive to see what you guys have all done. Thank you so much.
So please do take the time to fill out that feedback form. Emily dropped it in the chat to make sure you have access to it. We do rely on you to formulate our workshops. We've taken very much into serious consideration your comments and feedback. Like we said, you all screamed quite loudly that you needed more time, and I think more time allowed you to, and an extra workshop actually was added in to make sure that everything came to its fruition. And even if you haven't completed your projects by dotting the I's and crossing the T's, please try to do so in the coming days or weeks, and that way we can, our EPC committee can then upload everything and start curating these lovely resources you've created. So thanks once again. Get out there, enjoy the sun, enjoy this lovely spring day, and we'll catch up with each other soon enough.